Let's grumble.
In this video, we're going to go over the front approach sit game. This is part one of a two-part series, and this is basically teaching your puppy to stay in a sit as people approach it. Now, if you want your puppy to pass a canine good citizen, you need to have your puppy be able to stay in a sit as it's approached by a stranger, and it's also just polite. When we have puppies, they are so small, they want to get close to our face, so they jump up on our shins. We reach down and we pet them. Most of us reinforce and train our puppies to jump up on us. I promise you, what is cute when your puppy is this size will not be so cute when they are this size. And so this is a great exercise to practice. It is very easy to do, but you need to do it progressively in steps. So, and there's nothing wrong with backing up a step if your puppy is struggling. We always want to go at your puppy's pace, not necessarily at our pace, so it's not a race to finish this. Now, a few disclaimers before we get started on this one. You want to make sure that when you're practicing this, your puppy is in the middle of an open space. If your puppy is cornered, or if you have a tense leash, that can make your puppy feel a little bit uncomfortable with the situation. We're going to let your puppy move away when you're doing this, when you're practicing this exercise, as well as when you have a puppy or adult dog in real life. Never ever force your puppy to meet somebody, even if they're like, I've never met a Dalmatian before. Well, if your puppy wants to move away and you force them to do it, you can activate a fight or flight response in your puppy, so they're going to try to get away, and if you force them to stay there, you're taking away the other option, or their flight option, so you might end up with a nip or a bite. And a lot of dogs develop a nipping and biting habit because they're afraid of meeting strangers because their guardians have forced them to meet them, which does happen from time to time. So when you're doing this, make sure that you're doing it in an open space. You're going to look for signs of consent or signs of your dog disengaging. So if your puppy turns away from the person, if it lowers its head, if it backs away, if its ears flatten, if the corners of its mouth get drawn back, if it rolls over and gives you its belly, if it freezes, or it gets stiff or a hard stare. Any of these are indications that your puppy is uncomfortable with the situation. And if that's the case, we want to make sure that you allow your puppy to move away. I would take note of what the characteristics are of the person that your puppy moves away from, and then if the person has a beard maybe, or is a woman in a dress, then kind of recreate that situation later on so you can make it a positive experience so your puppy likes that. Now, the whole point of this is to have your puppy just be comfortable and relaxed when strangers come up and approach, and we're just going to do this with a little bit of practice. Now, when you're doing this, I want you to be very liberal in terms of distributing treats to your puppy. We're going to be giving puppy the treats almost as fast as you can give them to them at first as the person approaches. As your puppy gets a little bit more comfortable, then we're going to start delaying, increasing the delay between delivering each individual treat. Eventually, we're going to work up to the point where they may only get one treat when the person's halfway there, and eventually just when the person gets there, and eventually the person's going to give your puppy the treat. Now, when the person is approaching, that's when the treats are being delivered. As soon as the person turns and walks away, you're going to stop delivering the treats. We want to associate when the person approaches, that means treats are flowing, and when the person goes away, the treats stop flowing. So that makes the puppy more inclined to want to have that person approach. Now, I'm going to be working with Ollie, who is a Dalmatian. If you have a high energy dog, whatever the breed is, or if just it's high energy, you might want to exercise your puppy or your adult dog a little bit before you do this. Just make sure you find the Goldilocks. Don't over-exercise them, don't under-exercise them, and make sure they have about 10 minutes to rest before you actually start practicing. I would recommend that you practice this in about 2 to 4 or 5 minute sessions. Maybe 6 minutes would be the maximum if it's going really, really well. You want to always end on a good one. Now, first we're going to do this, we're going to ask you to practice with family members, people that your puppy knows, and you're going to practice inside your house in an environment where there's not a lot of stimulation. You don't want somebody over here eating Cheetos, or the kids running around, or the vacuum cleaner, or anything else going on. You want to eventually work up to that sort of thing, but when we're first introducing this, we want it to be a nice, calm environment like this room is. Now, we're going to be practicing with our senior instructor and puppy class trainer, Anna, today. So this is somebody that Ollie already knows. And again, that's really important that you want to have at first people that the dog knows, and it's not super excited, happy, fun time. And that person should not be super excited when they're interacting with the dog. Again, the whole point of this exercise is for your puppy to be nice and calm. Okay, so what we're going to do is Anna's going to be approaching us, and Ollie, I'm going to keep in a sit. Like I said, I'm going to be giving Ollie a lot of treats. Now, when Anna approaches, Anna's only going to approach a couple of steps, and she's going to turn and walk away. This is a warm-up. We just want the dog to kind of be used to Anna approaching, but really more interested in the person with the treats. When I'm delivering the treats, make sure you're delivering the treats like this. So see, Ollie is looking in Anna's direction. I don't want him looking over here. The whole point is he sees the person approaching. All right, Anna's going to approach about 3 or 4 paces, and she's going to turn around and walk away. Now, if your puppy is really, really focused on you, you might need a little bit lower value treats. And now if your puppy gets up, just stop, put him into a sit. And also that's an indication. If your puppy gets up out of a sit because it's excited, that means that you probably have the person walking a little bit too close or too excitedly. If the puppy wants to get up and move away, we're going to allow that. But I like the puppy to sit or lie down if possible, because that's an indication they feel pretty comfortable. All right, Anna's going to go ahead and approach and take one more step than she did last time. As she's approaching, Ollie's getting treats, and as soon as Anna turns around, the treats stop coming. We're going to have a practice fail. Ollie's doing a really good job of this, but we're going to show you a practice fail, what to do in case your puppy does get up. So Anna's going to go ahead and approach. And let's say that Ollie sees her and gets excited and gets up. Well, then Anna would freeze, and then I would stop, and I would reset the puppy, put him back into a sit, and then I would go ahead and then have Anna walk away. Okay, in this approach, and Anna's going to go ahead and approach this again. Anna freezes. See, we had a practice fail, and then Ollie said, well, I'll give you a real one. Sit. All right, so Anna goes back to her mark. Now Anna's going to go ahead and approach. Now, there we go. Anna turns around and walks away. The closer that your helper gets to the puppy, the harder it's going to be for your puppy to stay in a sit. So this is going to be a stage that you might need to practice several times in a row. We're good at this. We do this for a living. You might need a little bit more practice sessions. This might be 2 or 3 practice sessions before the person can actually get to your puppy. All right, Anna's going to approach and hopefully get all the way to Ollie this time. But she's not going to actually pet Ollie. She's just going to be right here, and now she turns and walks away. Now, that first approach, which she's right here, like I said, is probably one of the most difficult ones. If you have to practice this one a couple times, that's okay. All right, so Anna's going to do this again, and this time Anna's going to approach, and you can go ahead and start. Now, Anna approaches this time. She's going to get all the way to Ollie, and I'm going to be feeding these treats. Now, Anna's going to reach out about 33%, and then she turns and walks away. You saw that little lift or rise from Ollie? That's why we're only doing 1/3 of a way of reach. And if your puppy gets up, keep on practicing with just that 1/3 of a way of reach. Go ahead, until your puppy can stay in a sit the whole time. Now she's going to reach about halfway, but he's more interested in the treats, which is the whole point of this. Now, Ollie is in a down. I would probably try to get him into a sit, but if your puppy prefers the down position, that's okay as well. But your puppy, when it's meeting people out and about, is probably going to be meeting it in a sit, so I would try to get your puppy into a sit if you can. But again, it's whatever your puppy is relaxed to do. Also keep in mind that some breeds don't like to sit, like Great Danes and Greyhounds. So if that's the case, if they want to lay down, that's okay. All right, Anna's going to go ahead and approach, and this time she's going to reach 75%. There we go. Now you saw right there, I dropped a treat. If that's the case, that, especially if I drop it over here, that might cause the puppy to get up. So if that's the case, just have your helper freeze. All right, so now Anna's going to reach, this time she's going to actually have a treat with her. She's going to reach all the way, and she's going to give Ollie a pet. Go ahead. So you saw when Anna did that, she reached first and petted Ollie, and then she gave him a treat afterwards. We want the dog to associate the reach is going to be followed by a treat, so I should just sit here. All right, so now Anna's going to approach again, and she's going to do the same thing one more time. So now we've gotten to the apex of it. So the handler, or the person can approach, they can actually reach out, they can pet the puppy, and then they can give the puppy the treat. Now, when you're doing this, you might want to extend it and go from at first just petting like this to petting about 2 seconds, and then a treat, and then petting about 3, 4, 5 seconds, and then a treat. And keep on working on that until your puppy can just sit there in a sit or lay down while your handler or your helper is petting for up to about 5 or 6 seconds. Now, when you're doing this, I'd like you to practice at first, again, with family members for the first week. I'd like you to practice once a day in different parts of your home. Make sure you're doing it at a time when your dog is nice and kind of relaxed like this. And again, exercise ahead of time for high energy breeds or excited dogs can really help. Keep the practice session short, about 2 to 4 minutes, maybe 6 minutes maximum if you're really doing well. But you always want to end on a successful repetition. Now, this next stage, once your puppy can have 5 of your family members approach and a pet and then walk and give a treat and then walk away. 5 in a row, we call it 5 for 5. That's a good way of proofing. Once you can do that, then I would actually start having your neighbors or friends or people outside of your immediate family do this. Just make sure the person isn't somebody that normally comes over and like, oh, what a good happy puppy, 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 because that's what's going to happen. The puppy's going to get up and jump. So make sure the person that you're using has kind of a more relaxed energy, or at least can contain themselves when they're practicing this exercise. Now, eventually, I'd like you to practice this in an outdoor setting, like a low, or out in public, I should say, sort of setting. So So maybe Lowe's or a home furnishing supply store that lets you bring their dogs in there. I wouldn't necessarily practice this unless you really are advanced at a pet store or something like that, because that's going to be, those distractions are going to be much harder for your puppy to maintain the sit. But again, that might be a good thing to work up to. Just don't do it all at once. Well, this is my little buddy Ollie, and this is how you can play the front approach sit game.
Quest, you are a goofball.